Cashflow Diary podcast, episode 432.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you're here today because we are going to talk about, well, many things. But most importantly, we're going to talk about how these many things apply to your ability to build your cash flow, because that's really what it's all about in a very strong sense. For you as a business owner, you want to make sure that you can become more, be more, etc., etc., etc. Well, in order to do that, sometimes we have to take a step back and work on ourselves in various different ways. And I have with me today an individual who should be able to help many of us work on ourselves in various different ways. I have with me Gary Douglas. He's an internationally recognized thought leader, bestselling author, business innovator, and founder of Access Consciousness, which is what we're going to be talking about for sure. But what I find interesting is that not only has Gary been an investor, an entrepreneur, he's established the Antique Guild, a store in Brisbane, Australia, but he also has a horse, and I like this. He's the first person that I know that we've talked to that's owned a horse in some way, shape, or form, which says to me, I'm thinking he thinks differently, but what's really cool, he's building an eco retreat in Costa Rica. So here's what I know. If you're ready to learn some lessons, if you're ready to possibly expand the way that you currently think, you're going to want to take some notes as we listen to Gary Douglas. Gary, you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making the time. Now, with this being your first time here, what I would love to do is I got to ask you the same question that I tend to ask everybody else the first time that they're here. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. You know, Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, etc. And I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. For example, there occasionally as an entrepreneur, we can envision ourselves as, saving our customers one person at a time. Maybe we even envision ourselves dressing up and having fun, using our products and services in that way. But also like in superhero, an entrepreneur has a beginning. So if you think about Peter Parker, there was a time he was just a student going to school, doing his thing, taking some photos. That was how he was earning some money. Then one day something intervened. He was bit by a spider, and then suddenly he has this new superpower where he has to choose how he's going to show up to the world, whether he's going to use it for good or evil. So my question to you is as follows. Before Access Consciousness, before your books, before your stores, before being an investor and an entrepreneur, before even your horse, before all of that, what we want to know is, who is Gary Douglas?
Well, Gary Douglas is a guy who spent his life searching for something where truth existed. It's like I spent my life looking, so it's like, none of this seems real. None of this seems right. Why the hell are these people doing this stuff? When I was 10 years old, I went to church with my sister. And I would go to church and I would see these people being really nice to each other on Sunday and shaking hands and telling each other how much they loved each other. And then on Monday, they would screw each other. I go, wait a minute. You're supposed to be a good Christian and you're supposed to be doing this stuff. Why are you glad-handing on Sunday and screwing on Monday? And I went, there's got to be a different way. There's got to be a different reality. This makes no sense to me. How can people say one thing and then do another? And it's like I was looking for an honesty I thought had to exist And unfortunately, I discovered pretty much it doesn't.
Hmm.
But I made a commitment to myself that no matter what, I would be true to what I said. I would not say one thing and do another. And so that was the beginning of how I became me, is I would never go against what I said. If I said it, I would do it, whether it worked for me or not, whether it was what I wanted or not, whether it was going to make me happy or not. But if I said it, I had to complete it.
Interesting. Got it. That's a great foundation from which you can build just about anything. So take us on this journey, if you will. What were some of the first things, those seeds that you would say contributed to you desiring to be an investor, entrepreneur, to do the things that you have done?
Well, it's like I went to work in the horse business in 1968. And it's like, and the one thing I loved about horses is they're honest. You can't bullshit a horse, okay? Can't bullshit a horse. You're either there or you're not there. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. And they are always willing to see what's true. And it's like, and I discovered that if you are actually true with a horse, they'll be true for you. And I went, wow, what would it take for people to be like this? And I had a boss who had the point of view of, he was known as $50 Bradley, because he would buy any horse that was $50 or less just because it was cheap. And it's like, because I was the low man on the totem pole, he put me on that horse.
Nice.
And it's like, and I rode some horses that, tried their best to kill me. And I learned that you have to be committed to completing something if you're really going to, ride a horse that's nuts, or have a horse that doesn't want you to, or get to where you want to go. How do you get to where you want to go? Make a commitment to you. You will never give up, you will never give in, and you will never quit, no matter what.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned this commitment to completing. Is that something that you believe that a number of people don't have?
Yeah, lots of people don't have it.
Okay, explain.
Well, it's like, I function from the point of view of never give up, never give in, and never quit.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean you don't change something when it's not working. Because if something's not working, okay, what do I have to change or do different here to make this work? That's a whole different point of view. But it's like, if you give up on yourself, you go, well, I can't do it because. And you have your reasons and your justifications for why it's okay to quit before you even begin something.
Interesting. And
I
so
watch people do this all the time.
Okay. Well, I like what you're saying here, because you're saying before we've even given ourselves the chance to start to even collect data and find out, you're saying we're talking ourselves out of even trying.
Most people are, yeah.
So
And
what
it
makes the
was
difference?
amazing to me, because I didn't understand how people could do that, because my point of view was, if I want something, what do I have to do or be to get that? And it's like, to get that perspective, that in order to have anything you desire, you have to be willing to be or do whatever it takes to get it. What does it take to be or do to get something? And so for me, I always look at, okay, so what am I going to have to be or do to make this occur? And that has created all my businesses. What am I going to have to be or do in order to create this? And it's like, and I always function from the point of view of, okay, so if I'm not being this and I'm not doing this, how can I expect this to happen?
Yes, because that would be a challenge, to have an expectation for something to happen and not be or do the things that are necessary to make that happen. But
exactly,
what would be the take us through, if you will, the first time you were practicing this or building something where you're like, oh, this is what I have to be or do. What is it that you were able to learn that allowed you to come to that realization, but more importantly, actually see what you were after building make actually come into reality?
Well, probably the most important one was I finally decided I wanted to own a horse.
Oh,
I went, okay, so what am I going to have to be or do to own a horse? And I went, okay, so I'm going to have to be, it's like, I'm going to get the best deal on a horse nobody else can ride. So how do I become so good at what I do that I can ride any horse and therefore get a better deal. Because, it's like I was able to buy some horses for, a few $100s because other people couldn't ride them, so they couldn't sell them. When they couldn't sell it, they'd sell it cheap in order to get rid of it so that they could get money for their board. And I went, okay, so how can I do or be this? And so I learned what it took to be a great rider. And I rode every kind of horse under the sun to become the best rider I could. And I ended up being able to ride horses other people could not ride. And therefore, I bought horses. I bought a horse. My first horse was $200.
Okay. Now, hold on one second though, because there's the frame of reference you're having. Because honestly, sir, never bought a horse. I don't know what a horse should cost. What is a normal price for a horse?
Well, normal prices for horses run from $500 to $25,000.
Oh my. Okay, got it. Now I understand. Okay. Yes.
So it's like I wanted a horse, but I couldn't afford a $25,000 horse. So how do I find a horse that's as good as a $2,500,000 horse that I can afford? It's like, and the best I could do was $200. At the time, I was working for $5 an hour, and that wasn't much money in those days.
No, not.
But I managed to save the $200 so I could buy this horse. Now, this particular horse, I could ride him, but pretty much nobody else could.
Understood. So how do you, is this a process to whereby once you're able to ride them, you can somehow increase the horse's value?
Yeah, because you can teach them how to let other people ride them.
Got it. And then do you resell the horse? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So by taking, in essence, something that someone else would consider that they don't want, and
dangerous, basically.
Oh, okay. All right. Even dangerous. Go ahead.
Yeah, because it's like if you can't control a horse, you feel like you're on a dangerous item.
I see. Thus the discount. Then you make it safe and say, okay, well now you can have this again, same horse, back, but better, new and improved, if you will.
New improved horse, and how much are you willing to pay me for this great horse that I've just created?
Interesting. Love this. Okay. So when it comes to, entrepreneurs today, what some of the things that I've seen, and I'm curious as to what you would say, is that there are a number of people who are looking for the easy business, if you will, the what can I do to be, on the cover of Time or Inc. 500 tomorrow, and not necessarily willing to dig in and do the work type of work that you're talking about. Yeah. Has that been something that you've seen?
Yes, I've watched tons of people lose all their money trying to have an easy business.
So
my point of view
is,
what do you have to be or do to be successful at this?
Got it.
Because if you're not willing to be or do what it takes to be successful at it, you can't succeed.
So then that raises the question, what does one have to do today to be successful at business in general? What would you say would be some of the core things, regardless of industry, that someone has to be or do?
You have to be willing to do whatever it takes to get where you want to go.
Okay.
You have to have a commitment to, I don't care what I have to do, what I have to be, who I have to screw, who I have to have sex with, who I have to do anything with in order to succeed, in order to create this.
Okay. And then once you've made those levels of commitment, what's the next step?
Then you ask, what do I have to be or do to create this? Like years ago, I was working as a box guy at a grocery store, but it was what they called FedMart at the time, which became Costco, and it's like I went, okay, I need a different job. I don't want to do this kind of work. And I said, I want something that's where I don't have to, look like a slob, dress like a slob, and feel like a slob. I want something where I feel more. This lady's in charge of this section. How can I make her impressed with me? Now, this was a 40-year-old woman, and I was a 19-year-old guy.
Okay.
I went, okay, so what am I going to have to be or do in order to create this? I went, so what if I started flirting with her? What would that create? So I tried it, and I did, and she decided I was cute because I was willing to flirt with her when the 40-year-olds wouldn't.
Got it.
As the end result, I ended up getting the job I wanted. Once I had the job I wanted, then I had to go, okay, so what do I have to be or do to succeed at this? And then I learned what they required in order to create the statistics they were looking for, which had nothing to do with success. But many, many businesses look at their stats, not at their results. I went, this is weird. Why would you look at your stats instead of your results? So all I had to do was get somebody to pay me $1, and I got them off of my bad credit list for that month.
Interesting.
And I could talk anybody into giving me $1.
No doubt. No doubt. So as you're going through this process, what gave you the seeds, or what's the genesis of Access Consciousness?
Well, what I wanted to create was, it's like I looked at the world and I saw that for the most part, a whole lot of things don't work here. I went, what would it take to actually create something that worked, where people got better and they had more and they created more and they were willing to be greater than they currently are? And so I started creating Access Consciousness based on what are the tools and techniques I can help people with that could give them a place of creating more. And that's what Access is about, giving you the tools and techniques that allow you to create more and have more in your life. And right now, I get probably anywhere from 5 to 25 emails a day from people who go, oh my God, you're amazing. What you have created here is like, I have tools and techniques that make my life work in a way I've never been able to make my life work. Thank you so much. So I get what I call gratitude emails daily.
That's awesome. What was that process like, though? I mean, because for some, when they're in that entrepreneurial journey, they're like trying to create something from essentially nothing, so to speak, but it's coming from inside. So it's coming from someplace. What was that process like for yourself? Hello there, entrepreneur. This is Jay Massey. I know that if you've ever gone over to the site, cashflowdiary.com, you may have asked yourself, where on earth do you get a domain name from? Especially as you are beginning to build your bigger, better, badder business, you need a web presence. You need the email address. You need a way for people to contact you electronically so that you can stop doing the @gmail.com game. Well, the good folks over at GoDaddy have definitely supplied us with every domain that we have ever used. So what I want you to do is I want you to go over to trygodaddy.com/Cashflow Diary. Again, that's trygodaddy.com/Cashflow Diary, because it's a quick way for you to get set up to capture your domain name the exact way that you want it. They got easy search functions, and most importantly for you is that you'll be up and running today. As I said, once you get started, stay started. Don't let small little obstacles of how to get your own domain name going stop you. So again, go to trygodaddy.com/Cashflow Diary, and let's get back to the rest of the story.
The one thing I learned is that if you ask a question, the universe can give you an answer. If you come to a conclusion, then what happens is the only thing you can be aware of is what matches the conclusion you already have. And it's like great example was Kodak, okay?
Okay.
Their point of view was that film will always be here, and film will always be something people want. Yet, when digital came out, instead of looking at how they could contribute and have digital as part of their reality, they figured they didn't need that because film would always be there. That was the conclusion that killed the business.
Interesting. Now, through this process, though, there's this, many people have tried things, gone up and down, etc., for various reasons. What would you say what would the role of failure be in the process of becoming something to where you can recognize, I had a conclusion versus should have been asking a better question?
Well, it's like the thing is, when things are not working out and expanding, you're in a conclusion.
Huh.
What would I have to be or do different to create this in a way in which it expanded? And it's like most people look for a result rather than a constant state of expansion. I always look for a constant state of expansion, not a result. What would I have to be or do different for this to work is the question I ask daily.
Interesting. Would that ever be a time in which, to some, when they hear that, they could go, it sounds like you don't, quote unquote, take a day off?
I don't.
Got it. Is that what it's always going to take, you think?
Pretty much, because the thing is, it's like a day off is the idea that you don't have to be aware.
Okay.
My point of view is you should always be aware of what's going on. I wake up in the morning and I go, okay, where do I need to put my attention today? I have roughly 12 businesses I'm running all the time. And so I wake up in the morning, where do I need to put my attention today? And then all of a sudden something will yell at me. So I call people, I talk to people, I deal with whatever has to be dealt with, and therefore that one gets smoothed out. And I go, okay, is there anything else I need to deal with today? And then that constant state of looking at what I need to deal with, there's a constant question of what's actually working, what's not working. And it's like when you start to look at what part of this is working, what part of this is not working, then you're in the question of what do I need to create different, or how do I need to change this? And changing things is one of the greatest gifts we all have, and one of the ones that we tend not to look at as a reality, a possibility, or a necessity.
Well, okay. So why would you say then that change seems as though something that many of us try to avoid?
Well, because we think if we get the right answer, then everything will work. But the thing that I've discovered is there is no right answer. But there's intense forms of choice.
Oh, please explain. What do you mean?
What if you were never looking for an answer, but looking for the choice that would create the possibility, that would create something you've never had before?
You have an example? What do you mean?
Well, like, for instance, I went to Japan, and I ate Kobe beef.
Okay.
And I went, oh my God, this is so good. Now, I live in Texas, right?
Okay.
So it's like, do we have Kobe beef in Texas? Not that I knew of. So I went, okay, so what creates Kobe beef? And then I had a friend of mine look up online because I'm really bad at technical stuff. And he said, well, Kobe beef comes from black Wagyu Japanese beef. I said, oh, so where do you find those in the world? And we happen to own a ranch that's near Austin, Texas. And the closest place in the United States to find black Japanese Wagyu cows was in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And I go, oh, that's too funny. So I said, okay, so what's it going to take for me to get some of these? Because my point of view is, okay, I want to eat these. So it's like, obviously, I'm going to have to kill a cow. But if I'm going to kill a cow, at least I want it to taste good. And so I started learning about Kobe beef. Now, the end result of it was that we bought some Kobe beef. Then we bought some, that were Wagyu. Then we bought some fake U's, as we called them, which are literally half Kobe, half, or not half Kobe, half Wagyu and half Angus. And we began to learn about them. And then I went to learn more about them, and I learned more about them, and I learned more about them. And it's like it was in the process of researching to find out what was right about this that I discovered a whole lot of things. Right now, we have 21 head of Kobe beef. Now, are all of them Kobe? No, the fake ewes are half Angus and half Wagyu. But if we breed them correctly, they can become F1s, which means we can call them Wagyu even if they're not full bloods. And because we have the full blood stud, we can use him to create more of the F1s, which are the half Wagyu, half Angus. And they then become considered to be Wagyu beef. I went, that's just amazing. This is the way it works. And it's like, and you have to look at how things work. What we tend to do is we look at something we want, and then we go, I'm going to get this. And that's great. And then you need to find out what else is possible. And that's the question I function from every day. Okay, this is what's possible. What else is possible? What else is possible here I haven't considered? Look for the possibilities, not for the probabilities, and not for the opportunities. Because an opportunity always seems like you're getting exactly what you asked for, and seldom works out. But a possibility gives you the place where you can create something different all the time.
Got it. It almost feels like there needs to be some sort of possibility thinking training somewhere.
Yeah, there is, which is why I do what I do. Because everything
I had a feeling that's what you were going to say.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, I know it's kind of like
no, that's what I wanted.
Advertising.
I had a
but
feeling.
The reality
That's what makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I do this for everybody, and it's like people have called me and said, "Wow, I didn't know it was possible for me to have this kind of life. Thank you for showing me how I could have this possibility." Cool. It's like what I want to do with people to do is recognize the gift each person is in life is the ability to know things that nobody else does. But we always think that the thing that's really easiest for us is the thing that has no value, because you figure if it's easy for you, it must be easy for everybody. But it's not. And you got to look at it and go, okay, so what's right about this I'm not getting? What's right about me I'm not getting? Instead of what's wrong with me that I can't do this, which is where most people go.
Well, okay, so here's what I think to be an interesting question then. How did it end up going so wrong? I mean, I'm just, if this is... Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, it's only when you have a conclusion that something can go wrong. If you have a question, you see before it goes wrong that there's something else that might be possible.
Well, what I'm meaning is the thought patterns seem to be consistently anti what you're talking about, or at least I don't know.
But that's what we've been taught.
Got it. Okay.
It's like most of us have been taught. So what's wrong with you that this didn't work? Instead of what's right about this, I'm not getting. One time I was going to rent an apartment in New York City, and it's like, it's like it was a rent control apartment. It was going to be great. It was going to make all my life easier. And I went to where the apartment was, and I passed by it once, and I passed by it twice, and then I passed by it a third time. And I went, what's wrong with me that I can't find this place? Instead of what's right about this, I'm not getting. What was right about it I wasn't getting was that literally it turned out badly because the person that I was renting the apartment from was lying to me.
Interesting.
And if I had been willing to see that, I probably wouldn't have rented it. But I wasn't willing to see it. And it was only later that I realized that they were conning me, but in actuality, they just wanted my money. They didn't want to create a quote-unquote relationship in which it worked for all of us.
Got it. Okay. This is beginning to I guess, for lack of a better way of understanding, saying it. It's just beginning to make a little bit more sense for me to understand that you see the world completely differently, which is great. And yet you've taken on the mantle of teaching others to see how to see the world differently as well. For a lot of entrepreneurs, that's a courageous thing. It's to share your gift with the world. Where did that decision come from?
Well, it came from the recognition that I can't live alone. There's not just me on this planet.
Yes.
And if I want to see the change, it's like my point of view is be the change you want to see in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to create it, be it. Be the change you want to see, and then others will see the value of what you choose and how you see the world and what's different about it and how that could be a contribution to them and their reality.
Got it. Okay, this is making sense. Now, for a number of people that have listened this far, here's what I know about them. They want to tap into more of what it is that you're thinking. They want to learn, honestly, how to perceive their world in a completely different way. They want to be aware and plug in every day, actually, and not maybe even take less days off as we were talking about earlier. What's going to be the best way for them to catch up with you, find out more about how, you think, and more importantly, just dig deeper?
Well, they can go to Access Consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And accessconsciousness.com, and they can look up Gary Douglas, and they can look up Dr. Dane here. He has a blog where he gives tools all the time to help people get this different point of view. And so we put as much as we can out in the world all the time to help people get a different point of view. Because I've watched probably 60 women who could not afford to take care of themselves and their children become competent and become brilliant in business and start to take care of their kids. And with anywhere from 6 months to 2 years,
mm-hmm.
they're actually successful entrepreneurs themselves. To me, that is one of the greatest gifts I can give to the world, to show people how they can become the gift they are and how they can choose to be everything they are in a more dynamic way, and how to become successful. And it's not about not really trying. It's about recognizing you have to make some decisions and go for it. But it's also about recognizing, wait a minute, what's my talent and ability that I'm not using?
Indeed. So with that said, is there a talent and ability that you believe you're still not using?
Probably a few thousand.
I like it. If one of the listeners was wanting to discover some of those talents and abilities, what would be the first place that you think they should look?
Well, I'd say first thing, look at what you think anybody else can do because it's so easy for you. Like years ago, I was in the upholstery business, and I could look at a rug and somebody says, I want a chair this color. And 6 months later, I'd be someplace and I'd see a piece of material that was the right color. I'd call them up and say, did you ever get that material you were looking for? And they go, no. And so I would buy it for them. But I never added to the charge of it because I thought anybody could do that. And it wasn't until 20 years later I found out that was a rare talent I had.
Got it. So the things that come to us or that we perceive as natural and easy is the first place.
Yeah. Look to what you do that's natural and easy for you and go, okay, so how can I use this to make money?
Interesting. I like it. That's good. That's useful. I definitely want, as we wind down here, I got to ask you this question because I'm kind of curious to hear what your answer is going to be. We started by talking about, superheroes, etc. But my question at this point is, let's pretend that someone listening is, they're on the precipice. They're on the edge. They think they're going to, jump off the cliff and become that superhero. Maybe they're even standing in front of what I would call the superhero outfit store. And they're making that decision that they're going to, give up and go up. They're going to be more than they've ever been. And often, when we get ourselves into that state, there can be a companion, a voice that comes into the back of our head that reminds us of what we're not, who we're not, and why that's, as you have said, not possible. It's just not possible for you. And for some people, they even are related to that voice. So my question to you would be, let's pretend that person's actually going to follow through on your advice, and they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you have them do?
Never give up, never give in, never quit, and don't listen to anybody else. And don't share your ideas with people. Because people will always, the one thing most people will do is tell you why you can't do it, not how you can. Know that if you are willing to be whatever it takes to create what you want to create, you will succeed.
Love it. So, well, with that being said, sir, I definitely want to say that I appreciate the work that you're doing, how long you've been doing it, your dedication to it, and the fact that you have been able to touch so many lives says a lot about your passion and exactly what it is that you want to make sure.
Okay, can I change something for you here?
Go for it.
Okay, look up the word passion in the dictionary, and you'll find out to be passionate is to be tacked to the cross, as was Jesus.
Okay.
I am not passionate about what I do, but I love it totally.
Totally understood. I got it. Totally understood. Got it. But what I want to, with that being said, what I want to do is make sure that I take some time to say thank you for taking the time to invest your knowledge, your wisdom, as well as your insight here with us today at the Cashflow Diary.
Thanks so much. You're a brilliant man, and you do a great job. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means get over to accessconsciousness.com, because you're going to find a lot of resources that will help you move one step closer to thinking about the possibilities, not the probabilities. And most importantly, you probably will have a better day once you begin asking the better questions. Like, what do I have to be or do in order to have the things that I want? I think that's a great thing. So let's go for it. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.